Good day. I am Elamay J. Banghelista, and together with my co-presenter, Ms. Sarah May Pahente, we are going to discuss about the Pavlovian and Watsonian classical conditioning and what are the processes and other phenomena they use in their theories. Today, I am going to discuss about the classical conditioning of Pavlov. But first, let me introduce who is Pavlov. He was Pavlov. He was a psychologist born in 1849 and died on 1936. He was a psychologist, and he is best known for his discovery of the classical conditioning. His name is associated within the context of association theory in behaviorism. So, what is classical conditioning? Classical conditioning, it is also known as the association theory discovered by Pavlov, and it is recognized as the essential parcel of contemporary psychological knowledge, and it became the basis for many early learning theories. This classical conditioning, it was used by other psychologists as their early learning theories. So Pavlov uses the dog as his model of this experiment, or in this theory, in the study. So we have a quote here with the sight of dog does not only trigger the salivation of the sight of food does not only trigger the salivation of the dog, but any other stimulus may result to such effort if paired with food. So the explanation is that the Pavlovian conditioning in a nutshell. So UCS, it was defined as unconditioned stimulus, and UCR, the unconditioned response. And UCS and UCR, these are the considered and learned stimulus response units terms as reflexes. So the Pavlovian theory conditioning involves a multi-layered procedures. First, in psychology, or initially, the food is called as the unconditioned stimulus, and any environmental event that affects the organism is called stimulus. So the food is unconditioned stimulus because it leads to an unconditioned response without any learning taking place. The immediate salivation of the dog is referred to as UCR. So the salivation of the dog is just the reflexes of the dog, and when he sees the food, it occurs to him that it was something that he wants to eat. It's because the food affects the dog, and it was basically on his reflexes. So that was called the unconditioned response. So now, how did Pavlov condition the dog? So this includes a buzzer or a bell that is considered as the conditioned stimulus, and then it was paired with food. So together, he studied that when he serves food to the dog immediately salivates, and then next he started to ring a bell, and then the dog didn't respond. So so he made the buzzer or the bell as the conditioned stimulus paired with the food. So it occurs to the dog that when the buzzer rings or the bell rings, it is associated with food. So now Pavlov tried to ring the bell, and the dog reacted to it. So that forms the conditioned response of the dog when he hears the bell, and then he immediately salivates and think that bell is associated with the food. So that is how classical conditioning of Pavlov in a nutshell. Conditioning, it also has a wide wide ambit in education, including classroom management. Like for instance, when a teacher wants to discipline or to condition his class to pass their papers quietly and systematically. So first, before the conditioning stage, the teacher will instruct the students to move their test papers forward. And then the unconditioned response will, of course, the students will pass their papers in front. So now, how does classical conditioning happens? So later, the teacher will clap 10 times. And of course, there is no response from her students. So they didn't know what does it mean when she claps 10 times. So now, the teacher gave instructions to the students that if she'll clap 10 times, they will pass their papers forward. So that's when the classical conditioning happens, of course. The unconditioned stimulus is that their reflexes and their unconditioned response. And then when the conditioning happens, of course, they with the club of teachers 10 times, so it occurs to their mind that they have to pass their papers in front automatically. So that is when the classical condition happened. So in the tertiary education or adult learning, conditioning can be applied. So like for example, if the drama teachers wants to remove the anxiety or the worries of his or her students when they are performing in the stage, so drama teacher may help to diminish the anxiety by conditioning the students to perform in an actual stage. So during their practice, the teacher will allow the students to practice on the stage so that they will somehow get used to performing while other people are watching, so that in the actual performance, they are used to perform with people watching them. So it might remove their anxiety or the jittery feelings they will feel during their performance. So what are the other phenomena in classical conditioning? So it involves extension, spontaneous recovery, generalization, and discrimination. So when we say extension, it is when the use of the CS is repeatedly unenforced without the UCS, then the CR will eventually diminish in intensity and effect. Example sa extension is ang dog. So initially, the bell was the conditioned stimulus, and then if it was unreinforced without the unconditioned stimulus, which is the food, and then the CR may be eventually diminished or in intensity or effect. So if the bell rings without the food, so the dog will not react to it because of the repeatedly unenforced of the UCS, without the UCS. So huna siya na it was only the bell, walay food, so dili mag-react dili siya mag-salivate. It's because walay food ang kasama sa bell. So na-lose ang yaang mawala yaang interest, and then the conditioned response will eventually mawala, and its intensity and its effect. So parang baliwala na sa dog. It's because kung makadungog siya bell ra walay food, so di na siya mag-react. Of the spontaneous recovery, it is when the extension of learning process through time, the CR may still be restored, the recovery after extension phenomenon. So this phenomenon, this will happen if there is the recovery, if the learning is still in process through time. So if ibalik lagi hapon nimo na ang bell is associated with the food, so the dog might recover the conditioned response. So now, we have here generalization. So generalization, it is a phenomenon happens when the dog salivates by the merely hearing the buzzer, whether it is slower or faster, but the buzzer is the same. So however, when the new stimulus is very different from the old stimulus, then the lesser the generalization occurs. So like for example, the dog will immediately salivate or the conditioned response when he hears the bell, whether the same bell, whether it is slower or faster. But then if mag-change og bell, which is very different from the old bell, so there is a lesser chances that the dog will react to the conditioned stimulus. So that is the explanation of the generalization. So we have generalization and we also have discrimination. So discrimination, it occurs when the dog recognizes the sound of the buzzer is different from the stimuli. So thus salivating only upon hearing the buzzer. So when we discrimination, it occurs when the dog only recognizes the buzzer that was used to condition him. And when you change the buzzer, so the dog will not react to it, it's because he recognized the originally buzzer that you used to condition the dog. So that's when the discrimination occurs. So this means that it can disappear the conditioned stimulus very strongly. So he will not react to any other bell or buzzer. It's because it was not the buzzer used or the bell used to condition him, even if it's the same, or even if it's the same with how you ring the bell, but then it doesn't have the same sound. So the dog will not salivate because it was not the original bell that you use. So that's it for the other phenomena in classical conditioning. And next, the Watsonian conditioning to be discussed by Miss Sarah Pahende.
Hello everyone, my name is Hermie Franco Pahente, and now we will be discussing another classical conditioning, and that is the Watson conditioning. But before we go deeper, let's know first who is Watson. So John P. Watson is an American psychologist and a behaviorist. He wrote The Ultimate Goal of Behaviorism, and one of his prominent work is this Watson conditioning. John B. Watson was influenced by Ivan Pavlov's work on classical conditioning. So he believed that human behavior, especially our emotion, is learned through association. And this association involves pairing of stimuli and responses. And through repeating this pairing, it can change a human behavior. So the most very popular experiment of Watson is the Baby Albert experiments with Rainier. So the experiment goes like this. They put a rat together with Baby Albert and then they became friends. They played together like that. But to do the classical conditioning, Watson used a hammer and a steel to make a loud noise. And that makes Baby Albert scared. So every time the rat showed up, Watson make a loud noise and baby Albert is scared. By repeatedly doing that, every time the rat showed up, instead they played together, baby Albert is changed because he ran away rather, or maybe he is shouting like that he is scared already. He don't want to play with the rat because he know that there will be a loud noise that comes out after the rat showed up. So that is classical conditioning. So in classical conditioning, there is a stimuli and a response, right? So the stimuli there is the loud noise that Watson made, and then the response there is the fear of baby Albert, the fear of the loud noise, even to the rat. And the result there is baby Albert is changed because instead, baby Albert behavior rather is changed because instead they played together. If the rat showed up, he is scared already naman. So that is classical conditioning. In a classroom setting, for instance, we have the teacher give a spelling test to her students. And then every time her students get a perfect score, she draw a purple star above their paper using a purple pen. By repeatedly doing that, if the students saw the teacher have a purple pen, they will study very well. They motivate to study because they know there is a spelling and they want to have the purple star. So that is classical conditioning in a classroom setting. So the stimuli there is the purple pen or the purple star that the teacher draw, and then the response is the motivation of the students to have the purple star. So that is the classical conditioning in a classroom settings. So after that experiment, that is when Watson believed that human behavior is learned through association, involving pairing of stimuli and response. By repeatedly doing that, it will change a human behavior. So that's only for my report. Thank you so much for watching.